Have you thought of becoming an entrepreneur, of building an app that becomes the next big thing? Maybe you have an idea for a startup, but you're not sure what's the first step to turn it into a reality. Well, there's a community on Reddit where you can post your ideas and get feedback, our startup ideas. And in this video, I'm gonna look through some of the ideas that have been posted recently and give my feedback about how I might approach some of the technical challenges, building out an MVP, and more. All that right after the intro. All right, let's jump into the first one. I need your advice with my failed startup project. Oh no! I built Magic Note and launched it last summer, but it hasn't had many users. I'm not sure what to do with it now. Interestingly, I've been using it myself from time to time, always a great sign. I just thought people like me who need help in their second language would join the platform. Is it marketing? Do they need to iterate? Do I need to change the target customer base? Maybe. Should I find some people with similar ideas and apply the source code for that new idea? Maybe. That's kind of like maybe a rebrand or similar to iteration. Should I shut it down? All right, let's take a look. Let's see, Magic Note. We've got some video playing up there. Write easier, faster, and better in your second language with Magic Note. Write more effectively in your second language for work or business using artificial intelligence. Let's watch a sample video. Okay, put some text in the text box, press run, wait for a spinner. Then you have some options. Okay, I think I get the idea. Anything else happening in here? No. Okay, I feel the biggest problem with this is differentiating from the competition. Obviously, Google Translate and Grammarly both exist and are both very widely used. And I'm not seeing from Magic Note what's the difference. The only hint of a difference was rephrasing for multiple purposes, where basically, depending on the context of the text, it might translate it different. And in fact, they actually list that as the first feature, is to rephrase it into different contexts above the fact that they can translate it into different languages. So on top of the differentiation, I feel there's a bit of a confusion as to the primary purpose and who the target audience is. In this demo video, you see they're translating English to English. So they're not even doing this 40 plus language support. They're just taking English and theoretically making it better, right? So I'm not sure, is this a Grammarly substitute or is this a Google Translate substitute? If it is indeed Grammarly, then I feel you need to compete on that level, right? Grammarly, while great for people who are speaking their second language, it's not restrictive to that, right? It can help anyone write better. And if you have technology that can rephrase some text to make it more appropriate for a particular context, I think that's very useful at broad, and you shouldn't try to narrow yourself by saying it's only for people whom are speaking a second language. And if you do have technology that can do that and can do that well, I think one thing that's missing based on this is spitting out a lot of different options and maybe highlight the differences and explain why this was chosen over that. So that way you're helping the person grow as a writer and not just copy pasting things into a box. Now, going back to differentiation, again, if you are indeed competing with Grammarly, the UX of coming into a site that looks like this compared to Grammarly, which has browser plugins that do everything for you exactly where you are without disrupting your flow, you're going to have to meet or beat the UX of the primary competition, unless maybe you can extremely undercut their price point. Here you're asking 15 for the basic. Let's see what Grammarly is, Grammarly is from Ukraine, by the way, so. Okay, Grammarly by comparison starts at free and then is $12 a month for the premium. So for this to be viable, you're going to have to either beat the feature set, the UX, or the price in a significant way. So until you can do one of those, I'm not surprised that you don't have any users. So this really is a tough one, specifically for something like Grammarly. In order to build out an AI model or anything that's going to be able to make language recommendations well is a very difficult problem that's going to require a lot of investment. So if you're going to go after a market where there's a clear market leader and in a space that requires a large investment to even get started, that's really an uphill battle. So if instead you wanted to lean into the translation aspect, here the market leader really is Google Translate, which is notoriously not amazing, right? So if you have something that can maybe beat that, and if that's where your strength is, and if you want to give the flexibility of building in an API into people's workflows. So for example, for something like this, I wouldn't necessarily target end users, but I'm thinking if there are, who very often needs to translate their writing, right? And my mind first goes to customer support, right? If there are companies that have large customer support bases in different countries that need to talk to customers who maybe don't speak the same language, and so translating for them is something they're going to need to be doing all the time. So if you have something that translates well and can customize the output based on the context, which is something that Google Translate does not do, if you have the grit and are able to integrate with their own platforms, right? So these people are probably using some sort of platform already where they get incoming requests and have to respond. And if you have the flexibility to tie your tech into what they're already using, again, bring it to the users, increase the UX, and you have the flexibility in a way that maybe a larger company like Google or Grammarly might consider that not worth their time, that's maybe where you could find a market for something like this. So probably my recommendation for an MVP, obviously Magic Note is already way past this if they already have a product and are selling it and have some users. But try to find at least a medium business, if not an enterprise customer, where you can build them something custom to improve their workflow and at the same time kind of validate your tech. And that's probably where I go with this. Now, I'm not entirely sure what tech Magic Note already has. If they have built their own language model that can translate all these different languages and make suggestions, that's amazing. More likely they're wrapping something that already exists, whether it is Google Translate itself and then making some modifications in terms of the context. This seems like an area that requires a lot of investment up front before you can get any type of ROI. So Magic Note, hopefully that feedback was useful, and best of luck. Okay, next up, rate my landing page. Let's do it. From local to viral with Wavelink. You decide what content is valuable, not an algorithm. Posts that are voted positively by many will be seen by many. Start local, go viral. Dun dun dun. Completely new way to share content. Location-based feed that grows with quality content. Okay, so this seems almost like Instagram or Reddit, but a different way of deciding what content goes viral. Now, interestingly, I see the problem that they're trying to tackle. It's, as something of a content creator myself, it is super intimidating to be competing with everybody, and there's only so much real estate on YouTube. And it's like, if I can't make the best possible content, do I even stand a chance? And so if there was a way to narrow the field of competition, I guess, so I'm not always competing with PewDiePie or whoever the kids are into these days. So finding a platform where you have kind of a narrower field of competition is interesting. But I do not like this approach because I don't think that sharding this on location is the right way to go. I really don't want to see specifically content that is from my local area. I would rather see content aligned with my particular interest. Once upon a time, I accidentally signed up for Nextdoor, and I keep getting these and go around posts about people's missing cats and whatnot. This landing page is targeting the content creators, but it's not addressing the consumers. And if you don't create a platform that consumers want to use, and that's not the type of content that they want to see, then it's not going to work, right? You need to have both sides of the equation. So I like the problem. I'm all for decentralization of content people are consuming and exposed to, but I do not like this approach to the solution. Honestly, I think Reddit is a much better job at that. And so also for something like this, you have to explain to me how this would be better than Reddit. Again, differentiate the existing competition. Now, on top of that, moving to the landing page, this is no good. I think this has to be much more engaging than just this empty screen with a logo. You know, I don't think it would take more than an hour to grab some stock footage of people's like Instagram photos, groups of people looking happy, and then put a mock feed there, and that's immediately going to be much more engaging and look like a platform that I want to be on, right? Other than that, I think it's fine in terms of UX and UI of the landing page. Of course, as mentioned, you do need something that is pitching to the consumers, right? And not just the creators. Now, I'm trying to think, if you came to me and you're like, hey, Scott, we want to build a new social media or like a new Instagram with a different algorithm to kind of democratize the content that gets popular, what would that look like to me? I think there's a lot of opportunity in this space. I think one thing, just a random idea that I've had that I think would be interesting is something like Reddit, where it is kind of much more about the conversation and the communication than necessarily just the content, but having those conversations via video. Not synchronous, not Zoom or anything like that, but just someone posts the content, you post your reaction, or people having arguments via video instead of text. That might be interesting. But I do think Reddit's approach to fragmenting based on particular interests and communities and giving the user base the flexibility to decide which communities they're interested in subscribing to is a very solid approach. So if you could take that and marry it with some of the UX and approachability of Instagram or something like that, I think you'd have a winner there. Now, if we did want to build something like that, right, if we're effectively talking about cloning a Reddit, I'll show what's on my Reddit feed. When we're doing some sort of MVP, I would look at targeting a smaller user base, right? So don't try to launch for everybody, but find a particular niche or type of community that you can target, build out features that are specifically for them, that gives them a sense of exclusivity, gives them a sense that you really care about them as a community. See if you can grow that up and get enough traction within that smaller group before trying to expand and target everyone. All right, last one for tonight. General purpose parcel lockers, rentable by the day. Basically, general purpose version of Amazon lockers. This is something I would love to exist, but I don't think it's a great business model. As someone who has not maintained a permanent residence for at least half a year now, I use Amazon lockers all the time. And decoupling that from Amazon, who is already a monopoly, I think is a net win for society. But I don't think even Amazon is making a profit on the locker themselves if you decouple that from enabling Amazon to sell more products, right? Those lockers existing lets Amazon send packages to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to shop on Amazon.com, and that is probably where Amazon is making the profit from those lockers. Now, maybe I'm wrong. You want to do some quick napkin math. If you counted the number of lockers that you could put in your average convenience store and then look at how much you would have to charge to make it worth your while for the just the upkeep and the maintenance, and compare that to what people could reasonably pay for that service, and hopefully there's an overlap, but I'm not sure that there is. If you wanted to do more research on this, I would suggest finding a friendly convenience store nearby who has an Amazon locker already there, asking them how often someone has to come in to fix something. That might give you some information. Also looking at a similar business like vending machines and seeing what the ROI on that is. And maybe there are other ways to kind of offset the cost of this, because I would love this to exist, right? Just the other day, someone was telling me about, I'm in Seattle now, and there's someone who actually kayaks to work. They live on the lake and they kayak down here, and then they have to they have this foldable kayak, but it's still big, and they have to carry that to the office. So if that guy had a locker, I'm sure he would absolutely use it. And similarly, I've been passing by just a lot of empty spaces where theoretically someone could use that space for something like this. So there's almost a product market fit, but I don't know that the price point, if those two circles of what you would have to charge to make it worthwhile for maintenance and what someone is able to pay, I don't know if those overlap. Now, in terms of the tech side, obviously there's the construction and installation of these lockers, and I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that. The tech side of it was very interesting IoT product. The lockers themselves obviously need Bluetooth and internet access, so you can theoretically give someone a code to open your locker to put something in or whatnot, but then have it be a one-time code. So I don't think the programming itself is terribly complicated, but there's a lot of other things involved, and everything has to work together. So this is, again, one of those things where it is going to take a lot of investment to get this off the ground before you're able to really validate the idea. So of course, before doing any of that, again, research, see if you can, what other data is already out there to validate this before you try to build something and test it in the field. All right, that's going to be it for tonight. Just a quick recap. We looked at Magic AI, which does maybe translation or maybe writing recommendations. We looked at Wavelink, a new social media platform, or at least a landing page for a new social media platform with different methods of promoting content. And finally, we looked at these off-brand Amazon lockers. I wanted to kind of compare and contrast the difficulty of the tech for each of these, but it's not a simple ranking. Off the cuff, the Magic AI and the lockers have a very high upfront investment before you're able to get a single customer, even as a trial. However, once you do that, the investment needed to expand and to scale is much smaller. Obviously, I'm taking out the production cost of actually building and installing physical lockers, but just on the software side. The social media platform, on the other hand, is much quicker to build something that users could start playing with, right? It's maybe not going to look amazing, but just to build a simple full stack like social media thing for both browser and for an app using React Native or whatnot, just something where people can create an account, can post and upload content, maybe vote on content, whatever. You can get a basic version of that running in a few weeks, really, and give it to people to try out while you then continue to evolve. Now, you're going to need to keep investing in that because you need to then scale, which has other concerns, and you also need to start thinking about how you're going to monetize this. Probably you need a whole separate system for advertisers and how you show ads to people, etc. So even after you have users, you're going to keep investing and keep building that, because getting users is much easier, but you still need to eventually go to making a profit, right? So these are kind of a difference between a very hard upfront investment as opposed to something you can work on gradually. Of those, I would always take the one that you can do gradually, like whatever has the lower investment before you're actually able to start iterating and validating product market fit. That's going to have the least risk, right? And potentially in this case, the highest return as well. Obviously, the leading social media is making a lot more than Grammarly or Amazon Lockers, which again, I don't think are actually a profit center for Amazon. So those are my thoughts on those ideas. If you disagreed with anything I said, I would love to hear your takes on these potential projects. And if you have your own startup idea that you're looking to get feedback on, by all means, leave a comment or post it in Reddit startup ideas, and hopefully I'll get to it next time. Roll the outro.